Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm really glad you're all here. I think it'd be worthwhile if we just took a couple of minutes and went around the table and said who we are and how we know Aura and Brandon. And I'll go first. I'm Greg Dalder, and I'm the facilitator from the center. Been working here with Brandon and Aura here for not very long yet, but it's been enjoyable so far. And my job really is to work with all of us together as part of this child and family team to develop creative ways to provide Brandon and Aura with the support that they need in order for Brandon to really successfully do these things. Now we're going to come back to this in a little while, but come home mainly, get off probation, and have a little more success in school, basically. But that's my job. And so I'm going to go to you because you're smiling at me next. And so, again, just tell us who you are and how you know the family.
I'm Sydney Murray, and I know Brandon and Aura as a very good friend.
Cool.
I'm Brandon. Very important person.
I would say so.
Well, I'm Jerry Archuleta, and I'm a Child Protective Services caseworker, and I've been working with the family for some time. I've also been employed with Child Protective Services for about 12 years and have a considerable amount of experience involving child and family teams, and it has been extremely beneficial for families.
I'm Kevin. I'm Sydney's father and a good friend of the family of Aura and Brandon. I like to think myself as a big brother to Brandon.
Cool.
I'm Kanani. I'm Brandon's aunt, also Aura's daughter, and I'm just here to support the family. And this is Ezra.
Hey, Ezra. What are you doing over there, buddy?
My name's Norman, and I'm Brandon's probation officer.
And I'm Aura, Brandon's mother and grandmother.
Another very important person.
Yes.
I have an agenda for the meeting. I mean, some people are built in such a way that it's nice to have something that they can hold in their hand, a kind of a roadmap of where we're going to go. So let me just pass this around. Would you pass these around your way, Sydney, and I'll pass the rest around the other way. There we go.
Thank you.
Worst case scenario, you guys can make paper airplanes or something out of them. The other thing that I like to do at the beginning of a child and family team meeting, a first child family team meeting like this one, is talk just briefly. I don't get the sense that we're going to need to spend a lot of time on this about ground rules. For example, sometimes I think it's good to have a ground rule that we're going to agree that we're not going to blame and shame each other, not put down each other. I mean, I just don't really think that that's helpful. We can talk about needs or weaknesses. I think that's part of life, right? We have strengths and we all have needs and weaknesses. But there's a way to talk about that without blaming and shaming. And so let's just, I would really propose that we have that ground rule. Are you guys on board with that?
Yes.
Sometimes, there's other ground rules. Do you think we should have any other ground rules in order for these meetings to be productive and really a meeting that you're looking forward to coming to?
I think that it would be helpful for us to have meetings that are concise, to the point, and very focused. So to keep the meetings brief, I think it would be very helpful.
Honoring the fact that all of us have busy lives. Kevin, I know you had to take some time off of work to even come to this meeting, and I appreciate that. And so I think that's something that that can be part of my job, to make sure that we start meetings on time, that we finish meetings on time, and that in general our meetings not take much more than an hour, or we'll try to hold them to an hour. So that's a good ground rule.
Okay.
Any other ground rules that you think would be useful to have?
No. I'm fine.
Okay. All right. The document that you have in front of you, and I noticed Brandon, you and Sydney are sharing one. This is the strengths and culture discovery that I did with Brandon and Aura and a few days ago. And that was really a chance to sit down with them and talk about what was going right. This is real different than I think maybe their experience was previously, where they'd sit down with the guy with the advanced degree and it's talking about problems and what's going wrong. We were spent a lot of time talking about what does Brandon do well and what does Aura do well, and who do they know in their community that are where they turn to for support. And Kevin, you came up, and Sydney, you came up, and Kanani, not surprisingly, you came up. And it was really about identifying strengths and assets and resources, as well as kind of nosy personal stuff that helps me understand people better. I mean, kind of what's inside that makes them different than everybody else. And so I wrote that up in this document, and it's important because later when we get to addressing ways to achieve these goals, we'll want to try to use as many of these strengths as is possible. And it's really, that's why you're here at the table. I mean, we got some of the strengths right here at the table today. But I was also thinking it would be worthwhile to take a minute or two and see if there's anything you wanted to add in terms of what you see as strengths being in either in Aura or in Brandon, or maybe it's a chance even to brag about yourself if you want to say, well, here's a strength that I bring to this team. I think that would be good. So I think I really like going your way. So what would you see as a strength that you see either in Brandon or in Aura or in your relationship with him?
Well, me and Brandon get along very good, and we like to play together. We play football, PlayStation. We have a good time.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Great. It is a real strength and a blessing, I might add, to have a friend. So, hey, Brandon, what do you think is your grandma's best quality, or what do you like about her the most?
She's there for me
Wow, that's
when I
big.
need her.
Are you surprised?
No. No, I'm always going to be usually there for Brandon. That's why we're here at this table.
Sure.
So
well,
I
that
can
doesn't
get the
surprise
best-
me. But the
the
fact
best-
that he's so much aware of that, I think, is really something cool. How about you, Jerry?
Well, I know one of the things that Brandon's told me is he really loves his grandmother and he really wants to be home with her. He wants to go back home. Is that right, Brandon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of attachment is really is a strength. How about you, Kevin? What do you see as some strengths in this family?
One of his biggest strengths is, like in his answer with you about his grandmother, he knows the people around him that care for him, and he presents that back to everybody as caring for them, also being helpful. He wants to help people. He shows that too.
Mm-hmm. Great. Kanani, how you doing over there?
Pretty good.
Get your hands full, huh?
Yeah.
What do you see? I mean, you have a unique vantage point. Or what do you see as a strength?
Well, watching Brandon playing with his friends and his family, he's very creative. That's one of his strengths.
Uh-huh. Now, how about you? Are you creative too?
No.
That's honesty. That's a strength of yours, I guess. Norman, you're the an officer of the court to some extent, and have an interesting and important perspective. But from your perspective, what do you see as a strength?
Well, I see Brandon has a potential to be successful when he puts his mind to it. And one of the strengths I think I bring to this table is I really want to see him be successful. So if he works with me, then I'm really willing to go that extra mile with him.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is.
Very cool. What would you add, Aura? Anything else?
My biggest strength with me is that I have my faith in God, and that He will bring me through, and that's how I get Brandon through. And he has his strength. Is his faith. That's one of his biggest faith.
Mm-hmm.
His biggest strength. He goes to church, and he's a leader. Also, Brandon is a leader. He takes on a lot of decisions that he shouldn't, but he's there. He's going to try and take on the big opportunities that come his way. He's going to take them on.
Cool. That's very cool. We're not going to go through every line. You'll be relieved to know. of this document right now, but I would want to highlight just a couple of things that I think are significant. I mean, you are really a significant source of support to this family, and that's why we've asked you to be here. And I think that's crucial, and that's the kind of thing that'll make it or break it. I'm sorry to say that there's some families where it's a little lonely at about this stage of the game because there's not that many people around the table, and so I'm really glad that you're here. And I would have just echoed your comment that it really came through to me, and when we did the Strengths and Culture Discovery, how important your faith is and how important your faith community is as a source of support. There is I think you really wanted your pastor to be here for this
Yes,
meeting.
we did.
I've forgotten his name.
Pastor Anderson, Zane Anderson.
Zane, that's right.
Okay.
But he was busy. I mean, couldn't make it today, and we might be able to get him in the future. And then Carol is a teacher from Brandon School that's been, I think, pretty important and been helpful. But there was a big storm
Yes.
tonight, so she called and said, "Hey, I was planning to come, but I couldn't make it." And so we'll get her here to the table in the future. But she's another important team member. But this is probably a good place for us to also take just a moment and review the interim treatment plan. And by that I mean that I met with Brandon and Aura not too long ago, and we were talking about were there immediate safety concerns, and because Brandon's still in foster care, working towards coming home, and Aura said that when Brandon comes home on home visits, that she's a little concerned that things sometimes could get escalate and get a little out of control, and that it was not safe. That it was a concern of hers. And so what we did with that, Kevin, you're already ahead of me on this one, is Aura really felt that it would be helpful if you were there on a temporary basis during Brandon's home visits to provide some extra support and supervision, and we've gotten that in place, haven't we? Right. And so that's kind of addressed an immediate safety concern, and I just wanted to put that out there so everybody knows, how we're managing that. And so far, that's going okay.
Yes,
Okay.
very well.
Good. Now we may not need to do that, obviously, in the long term, but for now, that's kind of a short-term way to provide some support and ensure safety. These, I put them up on the board here, were really the primary goals that came out of my conversation with Brandon and with Aura. I mean, Brandon was like, look, I'm interested in getting off of probation, right?
Yes.
You haven't changed your mind, have you?
Nope.
Well, that's good. I mean, he's Norman. He said he liked you, but he'd like to see you heading into the sunset there.
That's quite all right.
And you'd like that too. It comes through. I think the other one is we really, Brandon and Aura wanted to see Brandon get mainstreamed, get back into mainstream classroom. But maybe the most important, I saved the most important for last, was for Brandon to come back home. It's been difficult for him and difficult for Aura for him to be living away from home, and that he's really interested in coming home. And what I said to them was, the difference is, though, is we want you to come home with enough support so that it works, so that it doesn't blow up 3 days later and he's heading back out the door. And that's, I think, kind of what we really need this team to do, is to, with recognition of the strengths and the assets and the resources, how do we develop a plan so that can happen and happen successfully? It doesn't mean there won't be bumps in the road, but how do we plan for it so that it's more likely to be successful? Now, are there particular concerns about this goal, about how we'll go about achieving this goal of getting Brandon home successfully?
Yeah, as far as knowing the family and being around the family and the experience of being with them is the fact that getting Brandon back home, that when Aura needs the break, to let one of us know and give us a call, that we can be there for her to take that break.
Okay. Some respite.
Right.
Okay. So getting her a break, making sure that you're not too tired. You actually talked to me a little bit about this when we had our strengths and culture discovery. Is
Yes.
that you're not at your best sometimes when you're tired,
That's
which is
true.
really true for anybody that's a parent, or I guess anybody that's a person, right, Sydney? Well, how might we address that?
If I believe that I'm too tired, I can call Kevin and we set up maybe a weekend or maybe a day even. Kevin likes to fish and so does Brandon, and that would be a
Sydney does
opportunity.
too. Yeah.
And Sydney does too.
That's cool. What do you think about that, Kevin?
Sounds great to me. They've got my phone numbers. They know they can call anytime. We've got room for Brandon whenever we need him over.
So one option to give you a break, make sure that your batteries are recharged, would be to have Kevin take the kids fishing or
Okay.
some other activity
Debbie.
during a weekend. That's a good idea. Any other options?
Okay, we have respite with Kanani. Sometimes she can be take Brandon for a weekend. Or,
Well, now she's got her hands full, it looks like to me right now.
yes.
Kanani, are you up to this?
Yes. I'm real helpful with the baby stuff.
Yes, he is.
Well, that's another strength.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you think you could handle the both of them?
Yeah.
Right on. Very cool.
Greg, one of my concerns is Brandon taking care of the community service that has been assigned to him. It's a real critical piece of him getting off probation, and the court being real strict about him completing that community service is really an important piece here.
Right. That's a good point, Norman, that we need to figure out some creative ways to support Brandon so that he can get the community service done, satisfy those elements in his conditions, really, of his probation, and that'll be provide us with a roadmap for how to get him off of it, at least a part of
Right.
it. Does anybody have any creative ideas about the things that Brandon might be able to do that would help him work off his community service?
Possibility of doing yard work probably be a good thing.
Okay, he can do some work at the apartment with Jim. Maybe give some of the restitution for some of the damage that he did around the property. Jim would be willing to work with him to do this.
Are you thinking like maintenance or something around
Yeah,
the
or
complex?
cleaning up the yard. That would be also in there. Cleaning up the dead cactus, all of that is in there. Because it's a
When you were talking about yard work, Kevin, what were you thinking?
Basically, anybody needing it. I mean, we can know anybody. I could even call him or have him come over to my house to do yard work.
I
You know,
see.
I have time. We can hit some of the other adults around the neighborhoods.
Sure.
Okay.
Good. That's good thinking. Brandon, I just want to get a reality test from you. Could you see yourself doing these things? I mean, are these options that are real? I mean, could you see yourself helping, doing some maintenance around the complex, maybe raking some leaves up or something over at Kevin's or somebody else's in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. I mean, that's important. We can come up with lots of ideas, but if he thinks they're not on the radar screen, they're not going to work.
Okay.
Well, I'll need to check with my supervisor to see if these things would qualify as restitution. And when we're talking about him doing this work, is this around the area where the property damage was done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'll need to check on that.
Yes.
Well, I think these are some good ideas, and I think it's especially positive that Brandon could see himself doing this stuff. But I think we know that in order for this to work, we're going to have to develop a plan for how to supervise the community service. I mean, if it were me, if I was 11 and I didn't have an adult there to provide support and supervision, I might end up in the hammock. And so I think we really should spend a little time thinking about how we're going to supervise this, just to make sure that it gets done. What do you guys think? How might we make that happen?
Well, I know I can probably get a parent aid from Child Protective Services.
I'm not too comfortable with a stranger. And how do you feel about this, Brandon?
I don't want to be working with nobody I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I hear you. I mean, that's a good idea, Jerry, but I think in the final analysis, really, we need to trust Brandon's
Well, how
and Aura's kind of feelings about this. Kevin, you have...
how about if we plan it to where we can share the time equally to
Okay.
watch over him on these jobs that he's doing?
Yeah, and I'm sure if Jim could work with him also at the apartment complex, if we can work there, because he knows Brandon.
Do you mean share the supervision of the community service
Yeah.
across the team, kind of spread it out
Right.
so nobody
Oh, okay.
has, an
has-
unfair burden or an unfair portion of this? Is that what
Right.
you were getting to?
Gordon?
Well, what do you think about that, Jerry? Would you be willing to kick in and facilitate and support some of the supervision on some element of the community service?
I wouldn't be able to provide direct support. However, I do support the plan that he needs to be supervised. I think that's an excellent plan.
Okay. And Kevin, it was your idea, really
No,
good
definitely.
one. You'd be able to kick in some time to support and supervise. Kanani, how about you? Would you be able to find a little bit of time, even though you have your hands full there to...
Yeah. Yeah. You can go with me.
Okay. That's a good point. That's a good point. Norman, are you thinking that you're able to kick in some time to actually provide some help supervising this, or are you sort of in the same place as Jerry, supporting the plan?
Right. I do definitely support the plan, but I am in the same situation as Jerry's, and that would be kind of impossible for me to be able to actually do the supervision.
Mm-hmm. So, Aura, what level of supervision of the community service do you think you'd be able to do?
I think I can supervise, especially at the complex with Brandon, supervise and see that he gets some of the work done there.
Good.
Okay.
Does this feel like enough horses to pull the wagon?
Yeah.
Yes, but another thing I was thinking about, the maintenance or the manager also at the complex, we could talk with her. She knows Brandon,
Nice.
and the maintenance man knows Brandon, that they can maybe supervise. I know they would be willing to be helpful at
That's
the
a great
complex.
idea. Would you be willing to talk to them about that and let them know, what we're doing and how they could provide some support to make this happen?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Norman, how are you feeling about this? Do you think this is a good plan? I mean, what do you think we might need to do to really get this moving?
Well, I think it's an excellent plan, but what I need to do is I need to check with the folks at the complex that were victims of the property damage and make sure that that's cleared and taken care of before we go any further with this.
Yeah, I'd like to volunteer to be the one to go and talk to the victims about this restitution plan. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
And so I'll contact them and talk it over with them and then get back to you and let you know what the outcome was.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
Well, in the spirit of one of our ground rules, which was really that we try to begin on time and end on time, honoring everybody's busy schedule, I think we need to start wrapping up this meeting. We, I think, made a good start on a couple of the crucial goals that Brandon and Aura identified. I mean, the first one was coming home. And the specific concern, I think you brought it up, Kevin, was that we need to make sure that Aura has the right level of support, respite, so that she gets a break and doesn't get too tired, because we never do our best parenting when we're overtired.
Tired? No.
I think we developed a good plan for how to provide some respite. Kevin, you're going to do some activities with Brandon and Sydney on the weekends, maybe fishing or maybe some other things. Kanani, you said that you thought you'd be able to offer some respite also to give your mom a break.
Yes.
And I think that this is a really good example, really, of how this process works, that we draw from the strengths. And you were really identified as being key strengths in the strengths and culture discovery and really mobilizing you as the assets and involving them in the plan.
I think that this has been a really good team effort, because we haven't had this before, and And there's so many ideas out there, and we
Yes.
have not had anybody just to tell us that this is what we need.
Right.
We have agreed that we need it, we need it, and I agree.
This feels good to you.
It feels real good.
All right. The other thing that we really have made a start on was some things that need to happen to get Brandon off probation. And Norman, I appreciate you really saying, look, there's probably more than one element of this, but one of the big ones is we need to figure out a way to get the community service hours worked off, and a good plan that has good supervision to make that happen. And I think we made a good start on that today. I'm thinking that there's more work potentially to do on both of these goal areas, but it's unrealistic to think that we're going to develop a comprehensive plan that takes care of all the concerns and all the challenges in one meeting. But I think we've made a good start. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Good. I think that's very important. I'm glad you were the first one to answer. And again, I think that the options that we developed in terms of putting together the plan for working off the community service hours, again, really draws pretty directly from the strengths and culture discovery.
Okay.
What we should do, I think, is set up a time, I'm thinking tomorrow, to develop a crisis plan. And really that's, by the way, I'm not sure that we necessarily have to have everybody there, although you're all welcome to be there. But this is really a time to say, look, sometimes things blow up.
Okay.
And it's better to develop a plan before things blow up
Okay.
than developing your plan in the middle of the blow up, which unfortunately is when things too often happen. And so I'd like to propose that we do the crisis plan as soon as possible. In fact, I'd like to see if we could just do it tomorrow. And
Okay.
which of you would be interested and available to come and work with Brandon and Nora and I on the development of the crisis plan?
I really would like to be there, Greg.
I believe I can make that too if you let me know the time.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that would be great. I'll tell you what. Let's pull out our
Kevin,
day timers here.
Do you think you could be there?
I probably won't be able to make it tomorrow, but you got my number. You know, I support you
Yeah,
guys,
okay.
whatever you need.
Okay. If we come up with something for
Right.
you, then we can. I'll call you and tell you. Okay.
Well, tell you what. Well, let's pull out our day timers here in a few minutes. We'll nail down the time, Norman,
Okay.
and for the rest of us for the crisis plan meeting. And then the other thing that we'll do is we'll write that up, the crisis plan, and make it available to everybody on the team. I think it's important that we all know kind of what's going on, and that's another important part of this process. The other thing that I will do is I'll write up what we discussed today and distribute it to all of you as quickly as I can so that you can
Okay.
review it and make sure that if I missed something that was important that we get it put into a revision. And to the extent that I write it up in a way that accurately reflects what we discussed today, then we'll be able to get your signatures that
Okay.
you're kind of signing off on it and agree that it reflects what we agreed to today.
Okay.
This makes sense?
This makes sense.
Yep.
Just real quick, I mean, this is like the 30-second evaluation. What did you think was good about this meeting, and what did you think was bad about this meeting?
One of the things that I really liked is that we continued to be very positive and strength-based. I think that was an excellent approach, and it's been very beneficial.
Good.
I have like a thumbs down. Next time, can we have some snacks or something?
Okay.
Good point.
That's a great suggestion. That's a great suggestion. I'll tell you what, I'll be responsible for snacks next time. You got a suggestion or a request?
Donuts.
Donuts. All right. All right. A woman after my own heart. I'll bring the donuts next time, and then maybe we can talk about who can be responsible for snacks the next time. So the very last thing that we need to do is set a time and location and date for our next meeting. Now, my suggestion would be is that we meet in a couple weeks. I mean, there's actually quite a bit of stuff that needs to occur.
Okay.
And I think if we meet too quickly, we won't have allowed enough of it to occur. You guys with me on that? I see some nodding around the
Yeah.
table.
Okay.
Could we, I mean, is this time workable if we just carve this out 2 weeks from today?
Okay.
Same location here at the center. And
Okay.
It works for me.
Works for me.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is, I mean, very clearly, we didn't have enough time today to talk about the school goal, and plus Carol wasn't here, and then to some extent I think it would have been not the best choice to try to address that when Carol wasn't here. So let's save that for the next time, as well as fine-tuning on the stuff that we've discussed today. Sounds good. Well, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
See ya.
Okay, thank you.
As a family, as a Brandon and I family, we believe now that this process can work, that our best interest was with a team, that that we're going to go someplace with this.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Thank you.
Do.